Hey guys, so last weekend I saw the latest installment of the Fast and the Furious franchise, Fast and Furious 9, Cars in Space. Actually, I don't think it was actually called that, but I think it was called the Fast Saga, but it should be called Cars in Space. So have I just let slip a spoiler? Well, probably not if you've seen the trailer, which you probably have, or in fact if you've actually seen the movie, because it's been out a few weeks now. But in any case, I'll give you a big warning right now. This is one of those rare occasions I will tell you not to watch this video. That is, if you haven't seen the movie or even the trailer, which pretty much tells you everything anyway, because there are going to be huge spoilers coming up ahead. On the other hand, if you haven't seen it or you just don't care, then here's what I thought of the newest car movie out, which you can actually see now that, thank God, cinemas are open again. Well, I will tell you, but right after this. Okay, sit tight, bit like the movie, this is going to be breathless. So in this latest edition of the franchise, despite the fact that we've now known these characters for 2 decades, we are introduced to Dom's secret brother, who we didn't know about before, I think. I mean, was he ever mentioned? I don't recall. Though I can't really talk. I'm, for example, a massive Star Trek fan, and I've been watching it since I was a kid. And it wasn't until the 5th in the original movie series that I discovered that Spock had a secret older brother. Or right up until the latest Star Trek Discovery TV series that I found out that he also had an even secreter adopted sister. Anyway, back to Jacob Toretto, played by former American wrestling star John Cena. You know, it reminds me of when Danny DeVito meets Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Twins. Yeah, he says, "Sure, you're my twin. As soon as you sat down, I thought I was looking into a mirror." And that's pretty much what this is like. I mean, even the villain of the piece, who is ultimately once again Cypher, Charlize Theron, points out that the very Aryan features of John Cena, isn't Dominic Toretto supposed to be of South American origin? Something he kind of makes a bit of a big deal about in some of the previous movies. Even the scriptwriters are confused because while Cypher says this, later on, Helen Mirren, returning as Jason Statham's London gangster mum Queenie, when she's talking of John Cena, says, she asked Don, "He's not a cousin of yours, is he? Similar features." What similar features? Maybe Queenie needs to get some glasses. Maybe she should be doing that instead of blasting through London in a noble M600 escaping the police. Still, there are some nice drifts and J-turns. Apparently she begged Vin Diesel and the producers to let her get behind the wheel of a car in this movie. Yeah, I know she didn't do all the driving, but that's still kind of cool. You know what? So I'm going to let that pass. Anyway, talking about people from the past suddenly turning up, and this won't be a surprise to people who've watched the trailer either, we also see the return of Hans. Wasn't he killed in a horrible car smash in Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift? The only one to not have most of the regular characters in it, although Diesel just had to turn up in an old Dodge Charger in Japan. Well, he seems to find Chargers wherever he goes. He even had one in this movie when he's in Edinburgh. Anyway, back to Hans. Though apparently Hans wasn't killed. He was saved by Mr. Nobody even before nobody knew who Nobody was. I mean, you know, Kurt Russell. He didn't appear until the Abu Dhabi installment of the series, right? So nobody knew that Hans was still alive apart from Nobody. Yeah, I think that's right. I think I somehow ended up in an Abbott and Costello skit. Anyway, there's a whole convoluted subplot to bring back Hans and introduce another young female character to the gang. A kick-ass Japanese chick because, well, don't all action movies have to have one of those? Apparently, she's crucial to the main plot, but she barely plays a part. And talking of which, it's the same deal with Brother Hans, or should that be Uncle Hans, or maybe even just Baba Hans. Dude, he is looking well mature in this movie, and he should stop constantly nibbling at those nuts or whatever it is that he constantly eats, because he's developing a bit of a dad belly that I would be proud of. And what about the other usual characters in the ongoing Speed saga? Well, settling down to life on the farm, playing mum to Dom's kid, doesn't seem to be sitting entirely right with Letty, who admits she's bored. Actually, being that this is Michelle Rodriguez, that's kind of convincing. I think she's only ever done action roles as far as I can remember. She's not the only one that's bored, because the late Paul Walker's character, Brian's wife, Mia, that's Jordana Brewster, also turns up, ostensibly because she thinks she might have some pull with brother Sheena. I can't keep pronouncing his name wrong, whatever, John Sheena, even though he at one point happily leaves her, Dom Diesel, and all the gang to be killed by endless hordes of henchmen. So what of Brian? Where is he? Well, we're to believe he's happy playing house husband and babysitting the kids. Man, all respect to the late Paul Walker, a proper car guy if ever there was one, but maybe they should have just killed off the character in the movies, because that's not really a convincing thing at all. And we see a GTR arrive at the end of the movie, supposedly that's him, just before the end credits roll. It's a bit contrived. So now the gang is back together. Let the Carmageddon commence. And you want outrageous car action set pieces. You know, a Fast and Furious movie will always deliver that, especially with director Justin Lin getting the idea of the magnet plane from his 9-year-old kid. Magnet plane? Oh yeah. So when John Cena, I can't call him Jacob. He just doesn't look like a Jacob. Gerard, maybe, not Jacob. Anyway, for his first escape, he is driving a Shelby Mustang, which in itself is quite amusing because wasn't he sued by Ford a few years ago for selling his Ford GT? You're supposed to keep them, I believe, for at least 2 years as per the contract. And you know, this guy apparently, he genuinely owns a collection of muscle cars, so he is a bit of a car guy. So anyway, he launches his Stang off a cliff edge, and it somehow flies high enough, far enough, and long enough to be caught by some kind of bespoke jet that appears to have wandered in from the Marvel Comics franchise and has a giant magnet under it. So it just kind of catches the car. You think that's bonkers? Nah, that's perfectly logical. What about a big Jeep Wrangler racing along a rope bridge as it comes apart and flails to bits, and the Jeep still manages to make it to the other side as if we're watching a Roadrunner cartoon? No, that's not crazy either. What is absolutely absurd is driving a new raised up off-roading Dodge Charger off the same cliff, somehow simultaneously hooking up to the remaining feather of the rope bridge and using that to fling the car across an ocean to whatever the jaggedy cliff-facey landmass is on the other side, and to not be either let loose and plunged into the water or smashed to smithereens on the side of the mountain. Instead, it just barrel rolls onto a rare flat bit so that he and the manically giggling Letty easily survive. Okay, she was manically giggling on the inside, you could see that. So what other incidents are there in this movie from which really the entire crew should be dead but isn't dead? Well, how about John Cena when he raids our hero's secret underground hideaway? Yeah, they've got one of those now. And everyone seems to know where it is. So anyway, Dom gets everyone out and locks himself into self-sacrificingly and single-handedly, bravely taking on the entire hordes of henchmen that I mentioned earlier, all of which he manages to throw to their doom off a fragile bridge across a bottomless pit. Except it isn't a bottomless pit, because eventually he goes down himself and lands in water, where he has epiphanic insight into his relationship with his dad, his brother, and of course death, which again isn't entirely ready for him, as none other than Letty has found her way back in and dived in to get him. So they survive, but all the trained mercenaries are dead around them. They didn't make it. I guess none of them could swim. I was thinking of the scene in Austin Powers' movie at the time when the henchmen's families are being informed of their tragic deaths. Probably there's going to be a lot of that. Anyway, now that the secret hideaway has been discovered by the bad guys, the team, of course, are still based in the same secret highway. Because I'm not even a super spy, and even I know that once your safe house is burned, you've got to go find another one. But it doesn't matter, because they're in no danger of being killed. After all, in one scene, Tyrese, playing Romain, whatever, on his own is surrounded by armed military soldiers. Nothing, they all fire at him, but nothing gets through his flimsy bulletproof waistcoat. Like he never once get hit on the arms or the neck or even the head, especially as some of the soldiers are shooting down at him. Not only that, And remember, Tyrese is usually the comic MacGuffin in the series. He's not really supposed to be the full-on badass. But yet, with a single gun, he then manages to take out all of these soldiers, like all of them. What's more, while escaping from there, he appears to get squished by his own armored vehicle, and yet he doesn't. So ludicrous is it that, well, Ludacris himself, i.e. Tej, in the movie says directly to him afterwards, "How are you not dead?" And that's what we're all thinking as we're watching the movie. But you know what? With alarming insight and self-awareness, it is in fact the Tyrese character that is the most profoundly honest in the whole movie. It's like he was in the audience with us, and he went back into the movie to verbalize the observation that despite all the crazy things that they've done throughout the series, launching cars out of airplanes, jumping into helicopters, and then landing on demolishing buildings, not to mention taking on submarines, not only do they always survive, there is never even a single scratch on them, not even an injury. It's like this street racing gang from downtown LA that started off as carjackers are now somehow invincible superhero types. Maybe this is the Marvel comic universe after all, and they all got hit by gamma radiation at some point along the way off screen. Anyway, of course, his suggestion is immediately laughed at by Tej, and Nathalie Emmanuel as Ramsey, who's the baby-faced British computer hacker, that's plausible, that runs with the Fast and Furious gang, but apparently doesn't know actually how to drive, until suddenly she does. Or rather, she learns on the job driving during a getaway behind the wheel of a big lorry, pretty much destroying half of Scotland as she deploys the aforementioned magnet, which is now installed in the back of the truck, and pulls a car through a building. Yes, no consideration about who or what might have been in the building, whether the car might have been folded around a pillar in the building in the attempt. No, the car, which was on a parallel road, is sucked through a building into the back of her truck because of a powerful magnet. Nothing else is attracted, just the car, incidentally. Of course, now the gang are loving these magnets because they've got them, and they deploy them to devastating effect in a number of sequences, creating untold levels of carnage and car lateral damage in ways that don't make any scientific sense at all. The magnets are in the wrong place. They finally use the magnets to stop a massive train of heavily armored articulated transporter dead in its tracks, so that it actually flips over head over heels. And what finally does that? You've seen that in the trailer anyway. A Supra does that. A Supra, it defies physics, gravity, momentum, and any of the physics formulas you can think of. Scotty of Star Trek would have a fit right now, because the Supra, if it went in front of this thing, it would have been squashed like a soggy banana, and whoever was in it would also be squashed. There's no way they could keep up with this, would survive the impact with this behemoth. But by now, the guy in it was the estranged brother of Dom, John Cena, who manages to escape by jumping onto Dom's car. So, as you do, whilst this thing is about to fall on top of you. Which Dom then gives him the car later to get away after John Cena hugs his sister, who he had almost ordered killed a few scenes ago. So now Vin Diesel has successfully replaced Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which he kind of fell out with, and who was pretty much the same enemy turned family character, and actually would have been more convincing as Dom's long-lost brother, but he's now replaced him with John Cena, so we are no doubt likely to see John Cena back in the next movie somehow. Oh, but wait, I'm not done with the crazy stunts yet, nor is the movie, as while all this has been going on, Tyrese and Tej launch into space in a converted Pontiac Fiero, because they have to take out a satellite that's in orbit, except it turns into a one-way mission, and therefore certain heroic death for our heroes, because... well, anyway, except that they're not going to die, right? But wait, let me say this again. Did you hear me? They go into space in a converted Pontiac Fiero space shuttle with rockets strapped to its back, which they must have quickly whipped up between scenes. Richard Branson, you old fool. I mean, did you see the news recently? He's finally managed to go into low space in his Virgin Galactic spacecraft. It only took him 15 years and billions of dollars to do that. Idiot. He should have just got himself a Pontiac Fiero and some old deep-sea diving suits, some duct tape. Hang on, duct tape, isn't that a running gag from the latest Discovery series of Star Trek? Anyway, he should have just done that and he could have done it. But actually, for car guys, the Pontiac Fiero thing is a bit of an in-joke. I mean, I'm referring to the mid-engine Pontiac, which should have been, their version of Toyota's MR2, but it was never really was that good, and it should have been a modern classic, but it's not that loved. But what actually happens to it is that it gets butchered and converted into replicas of Ferraris and kit cars and etc., etc. So it's a basis of a lot of conversion. So actually, what else would you use to convert into a space shuttle to go into space but a Pontiac Fiero? So having rammed this thing into and annihilating a satellite and ending up stuck in space, how do they do what it took Sandra Bullock in Gravity a whole movie to do? I come back to Earth. Well, you know what? I'm going to leave at least one spoiler out of this just for you. Anyway, it all proves that nobody ever dies in these movies except nobody. Nobody is dead, apparently. No, really, probably nobody isn't dead. I've gone Abbott and Costello again, haven't I? Anyway, I'm talking about Kurt Russell as Mr. Nobody, who's supposedly dead, but I'm pretty sure he'll probably pop up again in a future installment anyway. Which brings us to the big question, should there be a Fast and Furious 10? I mean, where exactly do they go from here? Intergalactic? Will the NOS button take Dom's dodge to warp speed? Is Cypher a Romulan? Does Letty have a secret, estranged alien sister from the Delta Quadrant who's a planet-hopping assassin? I mean, what's going to happen next? Anyway, the action itself barely feels real anymore. It's also clearly faked and digital, and it does detract from the armchair gripping tension and suspense that you get when you watch a good action movie. I was rewatching Mission Impossible Fallout the other day, and when Tom Cruise breaks his foot really jumping between buildings, you do feel it. And when he's actually flying a real helicopter and you're right there rolling around in the back of it, frantic about the extreme flying, you know what? There's something to be said for doing it for real. I mean, even Henry Cavill's moustache was real in that movie. So has Fast and Furious jumped the shark? The franchise is 20 years old. Number 10 of the installment is probably pretty much a guarantee. It's pretty much confirmed by a post-credit scene. But maybe in the words of James Brown, they should hit it and quit. But here's the thing. We're living in a world of environmental catastrophe, honestly, and justifiably raging environmentalists are fueling car hate. Well, maybe not justifiably, but they are. Over-exuberant throttle use is considered a waste. Revving engines is deemed noise pollution. Burning rubber is antisocial. Speed enforcement these days is draconian. And dull, driverless, battery-powered RC cars seem to be our inevitable motoring future. This movie franchise is the only one that on some level still gives us screen car porn and professes outright love to the automobile on a consistent basis, even if sometimes they're only CGI cars being pulled through buildings by mad magnets. But just when you realize watching this movie that you've busted spleen from laughing inadvertently and maybe you should just walk out of the cinema, they throw in a scene like when the one with Dom's dead dad, who's staring at a classic Dodge Charger and sagely turns to his sons to remind them that cars like these are immortal. And as a petrolhead, you just know that to be the deep, overriding, unassailable truth. Great cars are alive, they have soul, and the best ones are immortal. And in some ways, so is the Fast and Furious franchise. You may laugh, you may joke, you may poke enough plot holes in it to turn it into a calendar, but you just know that not only are you going to watch the next one too, but like me, you'll watch the farcical Fast Saga again and again every time it pops up on TV, because I always watch the previous movies as well. Fast 9 is admittedly stupid and absurd. Even within the series, it's probably a middling version at best, but it's big screen action, it's fun, and hell, it's got a ton of cars in it, doing the stuff that we all did with our Hot Wheels and Matchbox toys, when we were kids. We had them flying around and all this stuff, so what's not to love? Frankly, I can't wait for number 10. Let me know what you thought of the movie if you've seen it in the comments below. I really want to get your opinion on this. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure you're subscribing to youtube.com/browncarguy and hit the bell icon and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. Whilst you're at it, subscribe to browncarguy.com and follow me on social media by just searching for my hashtag. That's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even on TikTok. If you love my content, then please consider sponsoring and supporting it, and you can do that over at patreon.com/browncarguy. And you know what? You can use my platforms to promote your product, service, or brand. My YouTube channel is now closing in on 3,000 subscribers as I record this. Total views are nearly 500,000, and the reach just over the last month is nearly 1 million. So join these amazing people as my patrons, including Mohammed Umaid in the UAE, Partha in India, a tech guru and social media consultant. Find him on Parsons.com. Tom Conway Gordon here in the UK. Isaac Beauchard in the US. He's got some great deals on cool cars at bespokeautos.com. Reza Adil, check him out at Alizadeh Cigars on Instagram. Mohammed Qasim, business consultant. You can find him at wehms.com. Siraj Abbasi at Tiles Italia on Instagram for luxury floor and wall tiling. Mark Waddell in Canada. Zach Kogiani, a globe-trotting pilot with amazing images for sale at zachkogiani.com. And last but not least, my school champ Shaheer Hakki. Thanks for watching. More cool vids on the way. Catch you again in the next one.